Hey there. It is a beautiful sunny day up here. I am sitting on a fallen tree that it has been burnt somehow. There's parts of it that are charred. I don't know how it was burnt. Maybe it was struck by lightning or something. Maybe that's why it fell in the first place. I don't know. Well, no. I don't know what happened to it. But anyway, it's beautiful day out here, very windy. I love the sunshine. I love having the sunshine go into my eyeballs. I love the smell of the trees in here. These are eucalyptus trees. And it reminds me of cedar a little bit, honestly. I don't know why. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about something that is on my mind. This idea of how freeing it is to be accountable to ourselves, how freeing it is to realize that this narrative of using blame to get what we want, to meet some identified or unidentified need or mistakenly identified need, we are kind of taught this script a lot. We see it in the world. We can be taught it growing up as kids that blame is the way to receive the help that we need. And you know, it's beautiful to me to remember that blame is a form of asking for help, but utilizing a form of persuasion that uses fear or threats or the threat of violence, emotional violence. Um, it it uses these means to try to extract help, right? That is kind of what blame is about. But similar to that vein of blame is this vein of just asking for help by, blame is one way to try to be like, okay, where are the people who will help, who feel like it's relevant to them, who can be convicted or changed or, you know, um, otherwise convinced. But when we just ask for help in other ways, then we are still finding the people who are internally convinced, but we're finding people who are convinced in the vein of feeling moved by joy and passion and openness and hope and passion and um, pleasure and all of the things that are essential to being a human, that are needed for humanity, just as a sane basic need. That should be all of our like underlying um, desires and values, So when we have that underlying desire and value, we are able to locate help from people who are internally motivated not by pain, not by fear, but internally motivated by pleasure and joy. And that makes it a much more beautiful experience for everybody, because we know that when we then disagree with each other, have inevitable um, misunderstandings, disagreements, we know that we will be using um, that same philosophy of like, we want peace, we value peace. Our definition of joy is peace. Our definition of joy is um, pleasure and enjoying being a human and having our nervous systems regulated and calmed and the stress hormones low in our body. We will understand that we are in an environment with people who value those same things, and so we can locate people who value those things by, asking for help in a way that isn't blaming, a way of persuasion that isn't through blame. So that is really freeing to me because accountability is, you know, we don't want to be micromanaging people um, in order to try to, get them convinced or get them using fear and punishment to try to keep them behaving in alignment with our goals. We have to find people who already have mutual goals and use this accountability for our own selves to stay on the path for our own goals so we aren't relying on other people to meet needs when they aren't the right person to meet that need. You know, like there are so many of us in the world, so many people with different strengths, different limitations, and it's unrealistic to expect everybody to be everything to us in that sense. It's really necessary to realize that everybody has different, like amazing, beautiful, wondrous things that they can bring to the table. And when we have a need that needs to be met, we can approach somebody who kind of specializes in that. Um, but that doesn't mean that we need to have all of our needs or even unidentified needs met by these same people. And I think it's really beautiful to have that accountability for ourselves in order to respect the natural inherent limitations in any relationship and any dynamic. Like these trees, they are amazing for, I don't know enough about eucalyptus trees, but let's just say something like they're amazing for um, providing shade, right? And a good smell. We can cherish them for the shade, the good smell. Um, but if we start like trying to bully them into producing fruit, that's just not gonna really go anywhere. And if a tree was sentient, it would probably be, worst case scenario, really upset and dangerous, trying to be like, what are you doing? I don't produce fruit. And in a good sense, it would be, just like, sorry, I can't help you with that. Like, so I think it's beautiful, this idea of accountability, to remember to know for ourselves kind of our personal brand. That's a big part of resilience, so that we can go forward into the future with confidence in our identity, the roles we play in the world, the mindsets that we take, feeling like we can make decisions in the moment that we can feel good about, and at least always feel connected to ourselves, and know that we are always acting out of love for ourselves and not always seeing things as like a mistake or criticizing or feeling like we always just do things wrong. So it's just really this idea of how can we be accountable for ourselves to know the role that we play, the brand that we inhabit. This goes for our businesses, it goes for in our personal lives, just in our life as we're moving and living as beings on the planet. Just being able to have that clearly in our minds, what we can help people with and what we can't help people with. Because I think when we understand that in ourselves, and it's a process, learning this and having great compassion for ourselves and other people, and always wanting to see peace and see, respect and dignity mutually. that is like always the goal, and we have to remain in that position even if other people don't respond in that way to us. We have to know our own values, and that we always value, you know, whatever our brand is, we always value being respectful to people even when they aren't to us. We always value, um, you know, just, you know. So yeah, I think it's so beautiful to have instances in our lives. We can see it as like every day learning opportunities to understand what our personal brand is, understand more what we um, kind of specialize in, so to speak, so that we understand when we can confidently bring everything we have to being a certain role for somebody, and know that that is right for us. Because, you know, that's something I've definitely struggled with, and I think having a business helps us to bypass this. It's just like, how do I know, like, I can imagine, like, oh, I think that you need this role played for you in order to help you on your journey, you know. Like, I will often think that when I see people unhappy, or I see people happy, or I just see people on their journeys. I often see like, oh, I think this is what kind of role that somebody should play to you. Um, but then I have this tendency throughout my life to forget, like, well, what role is it right for me to play? You know, just because I can think I see what somebody needs, that doesn't mean that it is my role or specialization or appropriate for me to try to contort myself to be that for somebody, you know, especially depending on the context. If somebody is like really, if I'm really invested in somebody in our, like, our lives are, we have commitments to each other in our lives, we have, you know, a partnership, a collaboration, something that we intend to work on together and to shape together. um, I think it's just really, you know, so crucial to remember what role we is right for us to play for people, and to get more clear on our own understanding of our personal brand and what it feels like in our body and mind as we navigate that in the moment, and to locate those places when normally we would snap into fix it mode, or snap into you know, any of those kinds of modes that it doesn't feel rewarding for us, you know? I think it's always that question of what feels rewarding, intriguing, useful for us. That should kind of determine when we decide to play a certain role. Because also, you know, sometimes it can be like have we know something is a part of our brand, but it's not the right context for us to portray that role. It's not the right, it's not right for us, or maybe it's even like, it's just not the right time of day. Like, we aren't, you know, it's like somebody's trying to ask something of us when we are in a different mode, you know, and we need to have those boundaries to be like, okay, we need to set a time, or maybe we need to have a structure of a business in our lives so that we can safely bring help to the people who need it, you know, so that there is a clear understanding of respect and procedures, and like, gotta earn money, like, this has to be rewarding for me, it might be rewarding for you too. And, you know, clients have to understand that they also have so many options. We should provide clients with options besides us, to realize, you know, they don't have to think it's either got to make it work with me or they're hopeless. You know, we don't want people to ever feel trapped. We want people to find what works for them. So yeah, I think it's just so important to have a business in our lives, or at least a business-like approach to how we engage with people. And sometimes having that physical business is that way that allows us to remember, um, to use these means of communicating with people, you know, and to remember boundaries and to not just automatically go to, you know, trying to be fix it, Mr. or Mrs. Fix It. um, yeah, so that beauty of accountability for ourselves is what that foundation, that resilient dynamic we have with ourselves, our own relationship to understanding our needs, and all the other resilience components that make it possible to gradually, continually work on this process of integrating these different parts of ourselves and having a different feeling in our body, in our mind, when we are in these situations. You know, that is really the spiritual transformation, or just the transformation of being a human being. That can be really beautiful and rewarding, and allow us to enjoy life more, and allow us to collaborate more with other people so that we can all enjoy life more and help each other. And the internet is such an amazing, beautiful tool in which to use as we are practicing these things. And it's a beautiful tool to even give people the hope of accessing this information. You know, like, some people, they are raised in it and it just seems natural to them, but for so many of us, and you know, you can also not be born into it and come into this thinking earlier in life, depending on just what you're, by chance, you happen to be uh, subjected to. But yeah, I think it's really, really beautiful. It's really a privilege to have access to this information, and just remembering that that we matter, you know, our brand, our understanding of ourselves matters, the way that we communicate with other people, the intention that we have, it matters. Understanding, you know, limitations, and also respecting other people's own brands and their idea of beauty, and not always assuming that everybody is always hurt and in pain and suffering and needs to be like us. You know, like, some people, they do have, like, to us, we would be suffering that situation, but for them, they've had different preferences and experiences and reference points in their lives that they don't think that it's suffering. You know, to them, it means something different. So we have to honor that also, and not, you know, not feel like just because we would be really unhappy in their position that they are also unhappy in their position. That's something I've definitely had to learn. And but, you know, yeah, that it just reminds me that when I was, you know, when I was homeless, when I was coming off of my era of being a little vagabond, nomad, farm farm worker and hitchhiker and camper, all that stuff, I did have that thought in my head, that expectation that people would see me and just inherently know that I was suffering, I was unhappy, that this was not me, you know, that how I was living, it wasn't like that. I never expected this to happen, and it wasn't, you know, I always expected people to think that, and like swoop in to save me, but then I realized that, you know, I had to be more specific about, like, because there are a lot of kind people out there who don't want to intrude and who don't want to um, go causing you to feel worry and stress if you're content already, you know. So I had to learn that I have to have accountability and devotion to myself, and recognizing my own pain and suffering first, and be able to not feel like other people have to shape me, like mold me into being who I want to be, but that I discover my own self, a different relation to my own self, to realize my own beauty and strengths and desires. And that is the process for that is open to everybody. Just that process of being, I had to be like, oh, I do want to experience different things. I am in pain. I have to say this to people in order to collaborate or connect with people with a different set of underlying assumptions and opportunities. I had to, you know, be able to say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I care about, this is what I'm invested in. And honestly, that mostly took the shape of in the jobs that I was in, like with Amazon, for example. It was that same principle underlying. It was like I decided what I can commit to for myself. Like I wasn't having anybody drag me to be there. I knew my goals for myself. I was committed to myself. There were a lot of flaws that were involved in how I um, perceived myself and my relationship to the world around me. But there was also a lot of beauty and strength in that integrity, that was also there. So just remember that you also have to, um, I'm still telling myself this to this day, this just reminder that we have to remember to respect and respect what we want to do and what feels right to us, and respect what doesn't feel right to us, and be willing to put that out in the world. Because while some people will be critical or detracting, other people will be able to see us and be able to meet us where we are. And really, what we are going for is not avoiding all kinds of harm and stress. What we are going for in the development of our resilient businesses and in just business, being a business operator and expanding our businesses, um, and just enjoying our life more. Like what we are going for is this feeling of what the pros and cons, beauty of what we are doing, and the joy and the pleasure and the opportunities we have to connect with people authentically. It outweighs the fear and the pain of the detractors and and a part of that, honestly, just has to do with our own relationship with our own self, of being able to, it takes practice over time, but being able to not get caught in an analysis paralysis so much, considering everything nitty gritty, being able to just be firm in our role that we play when we can. Sometimes we don't know what roles we play, but being firm in the role we play, being firm in our boundaries, and um, being able to stay true to what is right for us, and also being able to be honest. Like sometimes we don't completely know. We don't always have to be definite. We don't always have to be like, we can also be like, sometimes I feel this way, sometimes I don't feel this way. Like that's being a human. That is us understanding. That is us being honest and authentic and learning to navigate our emotions and understand how to respond to that in ourselves, and understanding this difference of, how to know when it is our job to internally regulate, and when it is our job to change our circumstances to internally regulate us, you know? And it is a learning process, a beautiful learning process, but we can always have security that we can fall back on affirmations of just being like, if we don't want to feel fearful and have our mind run wild, with what if, we can always fall back on these affirmations that, like, no, like, I experience the best beautiful things that are bringing me to, like, closer to my goals, that are right for me, that are exactly what I need to experience in this moment. You know, that crucial, essential feeling of, like, no, things aren't perfect, but we are a whole human being. Like, we are whole, we are vibrant, we are present in our lives and our senses, we are devoted, we are resilient, you know, just being able to have that kind of feel in whatever affirmations you choose. And also, mindfulness is so important in this sense of just the quality of awareness we have, right? Because when we change our quality of awareness to focus on the sounds and the sights and the smells that are actually around us, and to be in our body, feel with our senses more, you know, de-stress, inhabit our body, not just all be up in our minds. That is really a beautiful way to remember the beauty that is always available to us, and the gratitude that we have for where we're at, and really enjoying the process and letting that pleasure, that peace, that enjoyment inform our thoughts and our decisions. You know, sometimes the way to let it inform, let these qualities inform our choices and the development of ourselves. It's not by thinking logically, like, okay, what would something peaceful look like? You know, it's just by letting us experience peace, letting ourselves experience it, and knowing by experiencing that, it's automatically going to be incorporated into the actions that we take, the ways we think about things. So yeah, being a human is wild, and also really rewarding and beautiful. And that, yeah, accountability gives us such freedom um, in designing our brands, and designing, or rather uncovering and understanding our authenticity, and how we can feel confident and secure in our choices, because we can't control things outside of us, you know. We can't have that ultimate control, and even if we can, it kind of takes too much um, energy to feel like we have to constantly be monitoring, constantly be changing over a long period of time, you know, like that is just not really a sustainable model. So yeah, um, thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been useful to you in some kind of way. And oh, I hope wherever you are, you breathe in some tree scented air that has been freshly filtered by trees. It feels really good. Google forest bathing if you've never Googled that before. Just Google it and see what comes up. Okay. Take care. Bye.